We need to operationalize ideas. We have a lot of ideas to solve problems of the world.
How can we build and scale the new business models, products and services, marketplaces, partnerships, and alliances that will strengthen our resilience in the areas of food security, public health and wellness, education, and social cohesion and culture?
So, good evening, everybody. Welcome to MDM Live, the weekly conversation that we have here on the Asian Institute of Management Facebook page. And we talk about many different issues and angles and topics in the world of development management and disaster risk management. Tonight's topic, I think, is going to be fun for two reasons. I think, of course, it's going to be a very relevant topic that I think a lot of our viewers tonight will really be able to relate with. And I hope that, for a lot of our viewers tonight, our topic is going to be something that they're thinking about. And the second reason it's going to be very exciting is because we're going to have a very exciting group of people to talk about this topic. Okay, so the topic tonight is about the new learning experiences in the new normal. And we're trying to focus on the learning experiences of graduate students, also known as leaders, development leaders, disaster risk management leaders. So we have a lot of leaders who are faced with new challenges in a very, very, very uncertain environment. And I think I would say that the most important determinant or factor for any leader to rise up to the occasion is their ability to learn. So tonight, we've invited four wonderful people, both from our Master of Development Management program and from our Executive Master in Disaster Risk and Crisis Management program, to share their experiences and talk about their idea of how they try to cope through learning so that they can live up and rise up to the leadership challenge. So joining us tonight, first of all, is Sherry Nisha Panimanglor. Sherry is a BS Pharmacy graduate and has a Master in International Management and Clinical Research. She has worked in marketing in the pharmaceutical industry for over 15 years and aspires to continue to help the industry transition to a more sustainable, globally focused way of working where people come first. And joining her, her classmate from the Master in Development Management program is Erwin Dotimas. He is currently, of course, he has about 19 years of experience in HR, which spans from local to multinational industries in the fields of business partnership, HR business partnership, client management, change management, talent management and development, performance management, employee relations, HR operations, talent acquisition, learning and development, events management, and corporate communications. I think perhaps almost the whole extensive experience in the whole domain of HR. And as an HR leader, his personal purpose definition is to lead, to guide, provide, enable, and inspire to help others and the business achieve their aspirations and goals. Okay. So those are two participants from the MDM program. And tonight we have two really exciting people from the EMDRCM. Okay. We have, first of all, the class president of the Executive Master in Disaster Risk and Crisis Management, Mr. Ace Esmeralda. Okay, so he is a BS graduate of PMA, and he has a Master of Management from AIM. And right now, he is the Chief Resilience Officer of Resilient.ph. And joining him is his classmate and partner, business partner, Wally Panganiban, who is the Chief Communication Officer of Resilient.ph, a social enterprise anchored on promoting resilience programming. Okay, so both of them are current students in the EMDRCM 2020. Okay, so we're done with introductions. So maybe I will start first with Sherry. Okay, so maybe Sherry, just give us an idea of what were the challenges that you were facing that inspired you to pursue further learning? And then maybe, I'm sure because all of these people joined AIM before the pandemic, they enrolled before they had any idea of any of these crises happening. And they had a certain set of assumptions about the challenges and the learning goals and when they would accomplish what, etc. But I'm sure all of those milestones have been thrown out the window. So maybe Sherry, you can share with us a little bit about how you saw the leadership challenge and how you felt the learning was going to help.
Okay, so good evening, everyone, and thank you for having me. So, like what Prof. Richard mentioned, one of the main reasons that I really joined the development program at AAM was really to, move from a business mindset into really a development mindset when it comes to marketing in the pharmaceutical industry. In the pharma industry, we're very technical, it's all about the bottom line. But we should never forget that people come first. So that was one of the main reasons why I joined the MDM program. And coming in, I had all of these great plans, and I set milestones for myself, and I was like, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna be, great, and I'm gonna graduate in December, and really get back into the current normal as it is. But then everything, as you mentioned, was thrown out of the window, and I really had to readjust and pivot, and really understand like my purpose and how this situation, this COVID-19 situation, it can actually even be a lesson learned into how I would approach marketing in a sense in and development, and really be able to put people first. And so I felt like though it's a terrible situation, there is a lot of great learnings to be had. And I really thought about, just really looking at it from a positive point of view. So far, that's what it's doing, and I'm learning a lot, and it's really helped me transition and really look at development in the pharma industry from a completely different angle.
Okay, thank you. Maybe I can ask Erwin. Erwin, can you share a little bit about your own experience coming in and how the challenges shaped up over time?
Yeah. So, well, when I'm trying to recall how I came into the program, it is just really because I had a very casual conversation with my cousin. No? Cousin Jeffrey Daquilano is also part of the MDM 2020 program. No? So when I got a curiosity to take a look into what the program is all about, that's when I realized that I want to be part of this group. No, because I didn't know anything. To be honest, what I really know is just HR. That's all I know. But it gave me a really good perspective of how I would want to how do I call it proceed or move forward with my career. Given that I have already personally defined, of course that's gonna change over time. But my personal purpose of being an inspiration to others, no, and then I just see the perfect match to what MDM really intends to hone the leaders of the future, the development leaders of the future. So I find it resonating into my personal purpose, and lo and behold, when I got into the program, I met a lot of diverse people, learning from their background. It's really very humbling, no, to know that there are people who are actually pursuing bigger goals in their personal lives. And I find it really motivating me to follow their footsteps. And then pandemic happened, everything really just like that. No, very 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 challenging. To be honest, it affected my personal mental health. No, and I was already at the brink of giving up. But then I realized that given the relationship that I built with the people in MDM, not just in MDM, but the people from EMDRCM, from MBA, the other cohorts, no, I felt that I'm actually blessed. And then what happened in our country now, while it's bringing a lot of troubles to everyone, to everybody's lives, no, I still find the positivity, as mentioned by Sherry, that we will be able to learn from out of this and be able to become really good, inspiring development leaders in the future. No? I mean, as I said earlier during our casual conversation, you cannot give what you don't have. I think we have given a lot during this period, so we can give more after this.
Okay, thank you, Erwin. So I'm gonna move on to Ace. And Ace, so how has it been for
Yes.
you? The journey. I think you guys started a little bit earlier than the MDM students. They came in a little bit later. Maybe you can just like give a bit of overview of like what were your expectations coming in, and then the experience during that time, and just give us an idea of what the challenges have been so far.
Well, good evening, everyone. For our class, the Executive Masters in Disaster Risk and Crisis Management, we're the first cohort. And then it's really a challenge because it's the school, the institute is still selling to us that we enroll and join the cohort, no? And then this is the first time that the institute is going to have one. So for me personally, I have first reservations because I already have a master's degree from AIM. So I said, I'm supposed to pursue my PhD, and I said, but this DRCM is something that really has a pull because my training, my businesses are already towards DRCM, and for me there should be a level that the AIM should really be dipping its fingers, or really all both hands, no, all hands on DRCM. So after attending the premier classes wherein Professor Richard was there, and I said, this is new. There's a lot of things that is really need to be, validated and learned and to learn because things are just really the description of that environment then is really VOCA, no? So we started with a nice summer. We have even have team building in Tanay, and then everybody was just a good mix of students from different fields, no? From LGUs, from private sector, from humanitarian companies, and then there are also from military. So we were expecting that this will be a really challenging 18-month course, no? So we have projected that we will just be in the classroom for 18 months. Then came the earthquake swarms in Visayas and Mindanao. So it was a first wake up call for us, no? And then we have so a lineup of high caliber professors. Dr. Solidum was teaching us on volcanic activity, and then a week later, Taal blew up. He said, "It's just like saying, hey, students, you're from the case room. Here's the real thing." So practically, the asynchronous and the synchronous, and then the vocalness of the course is really can be seen already on how the institute adapted himself. Now, how are we going now to adapt into, say, the classrooms at AIM? You have to wear, say, a different mask because of the Taal volcano. Then came COVID. So you can see that we never expected that the informal classrooms the informal sessions in the classroom will be converted really to remote learning, and it become asynchronous and synchronous and blended learning. So the challenge there for us is that as a EMDRCM student, we are already in that VOCA world. We need to adapt. We cannot just think of negative things, but what's important thing is that we should adapt to what's really developing already in the country, in our LGU, and in the world. So this is instead of discouraging us for us in the course, we're more encouraged because this is an opportunity for us to probably write the book, as we have talked about with Professor Richard. And I'm sure Wally has more to say about this.
Go ahead, Wally.
Okay. I would take a more personal approach to this because just Sir Ace mentioned, the EMDRCM is a new program. And when I first saw the posters on LinkedIn, I was intrigued. But it was actually Prof. Richard's fault why I was part of the program. The master class that was organized where he was the speaker together with Doc Hartigan-Go, which Sir Ace also attended, was the final straw that made me get over myself and forget about my issues and take that leap of faith to jump into the program. I had no idea what disaster risk management was. I did not know a thing or two about it, these things that you talk about in the MDM about sustainable development goals. My key concern was, for all my entire professional life, I was dealing with crisis management, and I wanted the credential that came with AIM. And Professor Cruz was kind enough to tell us during that master class that there's a certain perk with being part of the pioneering class, and that was, well, you are guinea pigs in a certain sense, but you are also going to be trailblazers in the way that the world appreciates EMDRCM. And true enough, in the course of the almost 18 months that we have been together, we have learned quite a lot, especially since the things that we are experiencing are not case studies that we are just provided in the thousands of readings sent by the professors. They're actually live cases happening real time. And if there are, I don't know if there's any better way to learn than to actually experience it firsthand, these things that we're experiencing. Case in point was the Taal volcanic eruption last January. Um, Prof. Cruz is a little older than me, and I'm guessing the three of us, Sherry, Erwin, and Ace is a little younger. So I was surprised when some of my classmates said they've never experienced the ash fall. Then again, Mount Pinatubo happened with some of our classmates not being born yet. So there is a certain beauty, maybe a certain design in how all of this are playing real time with us learning from AIM, the frameworks. And when you look out your window, when you watch your television, you see these cases live in front of you. And I cannot think of any better way to be discussing this together with our cousins in the school with the MDM, because as was emphasized in all of the discussions, there can be no development if there's no resilience. So there are a lot of opportunities that really came along in this particular program.
Okay, so I just wanted to pay tribute, yes, to the two of you for you know placing a bet on the program. And of course, we had all of our cards open and said it was a new program. But to be honest, I already knew it was going to be exciting for the first batch, but I never really knew that it was going to be this exciting. Okay, so I was just smiling as I was listening to both Ace and Wally, because the truth is we did not really foresee that the program would have to be that agile to adjust to the actual developments that were happening around us. Okay. So, I think there's a certain level of urgency always when you talk about disaster risk. Okay. But of course, the development world the problems are so complex and they're so wicked and they're so huge, right? So I just wanted to go back to Sherry, and I just wanted to ask her, like right now as she's moving forward, what's today, September 26th, Sherry, like, what are the biggest concerns that you have, that you see out there, and how are you seeing yourself and your role moving forward in some of those challenges in development today?
Yeah, I think when I first started this course, coming from a very corporate background, initially I couldn't see like how I could contribute to the development. But with all of the things happening right now, and then you see, like, well, for me personally, for example, what I noted during the lockdowns, during the ECQ, is really access to healthcare, access to medicines was a huge issue. It was a huge problem. And luckily, it was actually the topic that I wanted to talk about in my MRR, or my thesis capstone. And it really solidified that for me, that access to medicines, access to healthcare is a pressing problem. And we as, corporate, people from corporate can actually, really, we really have to go back down to the communities, really need to understand what's the problem, what people are facing, and how we can really contribute, right? Because we're always looking at things from the top down. And it's really much more important. And this is something that I really learned in the past, 6 months that we have been stuck indoors. It really gives you a lot of time to think, right? And so I learned a lot during my classes thus far, and it's really cleared it up for me, like how much people really require in terms of us being really present, us really understanding them, and us really being able to say like, hey, there's so much more to learn, there's so much more to do for the Filipino people. And I think that's really what development is all about. And I think that for me right now, that's really the direction that I'm taking, that, being able to really work with people on the ground, with communities, and provide them that access that they require, even in the midst of extreme situations such as this. Giving people that reassurance, giving them something to hold on to, giving them that peace of mind that, regardless of whatever's happening, they're still going to be able to be taken care of. I think that's really my current learning as of now.
Do you think that, so, of course, from my parlance, from my point of view, that, this is one area that I really have a lot of interest in. And, I would say that this is really about traditional large companies learning how to have more empathy for the world. I want to talk about empathy maybe a little bit, as of September 26th. Like now that we're actually separated from each other, we're not actually in the same room with one another while we're talking about this. How has it been for you? Like, were you able to like build empathy with your classmates? Were you able to like, has the personal connection suffered a lot since classes went online? And, what's your insights about that moving forward?
When you talk about empathy, of course, I think that we really all empathize with each other's plight, so to speak, mainly because, though we're all apart from each other, we're all actually in the same boat, in the sense that we all have had to pivot. We've all experienced the same struggle. We all have to really learn how to interact with each other. And it's not just with us in the classroom, but, even in general, you have to relearn how to interact with each other without actually interacting with each other. So, you can't be with each other in the same room. You can't see each other. You only see what's there on the screen. But, body language plays a huge role in, being able to really, collaborate and really work together. And for me, it really taught me that initially it was difficult. It was really tough for me because I'm the kind of person that, I'm very visual in that sense, and I really need to be able to have people in front of me to interact. But the past 6 months has really taught me to be empathetic with each other, in the sense that, we all need to understand each other. We all need to understand that we all handle things differently, but ultimately we all have the same goals, and, we all have the same objectives. So really being able to listen to each other and really understand each other, I feel like, for me, that's really something that I learned coming in. And I feel like, from corporate and to now, that was one of my biggest learnings, because in corporate, I don't necessarily think that, we learn the value of empathy, and this pandemic has really taught me that.
Okay, thank you. Erwin, how about you? What's your urgent view of the future? What are the things that you see are the urgent gaps that you identify for yourself, and maybe like what's the role that you might be needing to fill in the future?
Okay. So as mentioned earlier, my background is really HR. So I'm really looking at being able to contribute on how do we alleviate now the situation of the working force. Now, I mean, for a time we've heard that about 45% of Filipinos have lost their jobs. So that's quite huge. And on a perspective of um, an experienced person who's been helping people find and get a job in a company, that's what I'm trying to um, to bridge. But being in MDM, no, I look beyond being just an HR executive. In fact, my definition of HR now has changed given our subject. I call it now human capital. So there's a different definition about that. So they're not just resources, but they're really capital, a really big value in the whole scheme of things as far as the working space is concerned. But right now, more than being a catalyst in helping people find their niche in this pandemic, to develop their skills differently, increase capability. I'm also looking at being able to help on the mental awareness, mental well-being space. No, in fact, that's in alignment with what I'm doing now, as mentioned earlier by Sherry on her capstone. I'm also working on my capstone that is about mental health. Providing, building a capability, on the security industry, to be able to respond accordingly. And of course, I think some infusion on disaster risk management capability as well. No, so that's how I've seen myself evolving in the last 6 months that we've been in MDM. That sounds to be a short time, but for us, it's already a long time to really learn from each other and then see how we'll be able to contribute moving forward, becoming development leaders. And you ask about empathy, and then Sherry mentioned a lot about that, and I do agree with her. And at one point, I thought I would use the analogy of, someone who's born to be blind. Now, when you are blind, you tend to increase your sensitivity, your senses, and that's what's happening to us now in terms of empathy. No, it appears that everybody's just shaken by what's happening, and it increased our senses to be more empathic about the people around us. And then one case in point, no, we are just talking in our chat. Imagine that's a chat group, and then you just mentioned something that is not typical of you that someone was able to pick up. And then all of a sudden you get a private message. That person is asking you what's happening with you. Can I offer you something? I'm just here to listen. Blah blah blah. No, so that's one way of us showing that we are really developing that empathy, to people, and then an application of what we're learning from our building leadership subject. I mean, ganun prof. I mean, right now we breathe and we walk and talk the things, the form, the frameworks that we're learning, and we're putting it into life.
Yep.
Parang nakakatawa na nga that we are just like repeating like parrots of what we are learning. But it really helps us because it's very applicable to what we should be doing and behaving accordingly right now during this time we call pandemic.
Okay. Before I go to Ace, I just wanted to ask you one short question, Erwin. So you've been going to work, right? Continuously?
Now, no, I'm full time. That added up to my stress.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
But I wanted to ask you, how do you think the voice of the HR director needs to change, like in the near term, no? Given the radical changes to the workforce structure and the work from home? I'm just really curious from an HR point of view. How does the tone of your voice have to change now in the meetings with the COO, the CEO? How would you be different if you went back, or when you go back?
Oh, I think it goes back to what we're talking about, the empathy, and then just being on the shoes of others. We cannot always just tell everybody that we are okay. No, this is what the company looks for you, plans for you. But I think it's very important that we also hear from our human capital what's happening to them. So we need to reach out to them, communicate clearly with them, look it on their lens as well, so we can create that co-creation, come up with that co-creative environment, so people can work together and come up with a better solution that applies to everyone. I mean, one solution doesn't. I mean, how would I put it? one size doesn't fit all. I mean, we can just customize whatever works for
Yeah.
someone, and then I think that's where the human capital department can help, identify opportunities, work with people, talk with them. That's what we are good at, reaching
Yeah.
out to people, talking to them. So I think we need to translate that to management, so management can also see that at the lens of the human capital.
Okay. So it's not maybe as templated as it used to be. It's
Right,
not
right,
as it's
right.
not as boxy as it used to be now. You have to be more creative maybe.
Correct, correct.
Okay. So I want to move to Ace. Ace, I know that you're the Chief Resilience Officer of Resilient.ph. I really want
Yes.
to understand from your perspective, what's the urgent challenge that, what's the reason why this organization needs to exist? What's the urgent challenge that you're trying to overcome? And as Chief Resilience Officer, can you give us an idea of, like, for you personally, what is it that you have to step up to so that Resilient.ph can be successful in what it's trying to accomplish?
Well, that's a very good question, Professor Richard. Well, Resilient Base was established as a startup and an advocacy and a social platform. We want to change, no? That's the radical word for me. We want to change the mindset of everybody, not just thinking about asset protection and risk management or security, or about simple risk management like how do we define risk management? Is it physical? Is it fiscal, financial, or security? Then we go to business continuity program. Or is it really disaster risk reduction? So I have been a consultant to several companies and I am still the consultant. And then that's only in security and BCP and in disaster risk. But I realized that even conglomerates, their approach was really silos. Like say, okay, the BCP guy does this. And then even in the BCP world, they are still focused on IT. And then when you talk about security, when you Google security, you will find out that it talks about IT security. It does not talk about home security or your security while you are, say, walking around going to the mall. Then a lot of our responses to pandemic are given to security people. And these security people are not even oriented to disaster risk or and reduction. And then the worst thing is that we realize that a lot of our efforts in the conglomerates or company doesn't have the correct and the effective crisis and risk communications. That's why in Resilient Philippines we elevated that. We call that as resilience communications, which is really the expertise of my partner Wally, which he can discuss that if you ask him. But then when we set up Resilient PH and I appointed myself as the chief resilience officer, it is really the forcing me to go beyond, no, beyond the usual security mindset, because people in other world, they look at me as a security guy. In other worlds they say, oh, I'm an organic farmer. In other groups they I am in cybersecurity. But then for me, we should think resiliency already, because resiliency is the goal of the EMDRCM program. And in order for us to be resilient, we should have all the elements of what we call the resilient programming framework. It is from asset protection and risk management, where you have a nerve center that processes all the data so that your decision making are really evidence based, data driven. Then you go to business continuity. We change that into enterprise continuity program, no, or management program, so that you're not just thinking about business, because a lot of companies are just thinking about business. See, right now, our civilian government, they already started the public service continuity program. No, it was really a conversion of the BCP, the business BCP, whether it's IT centric or enterprise wide BCP. They transfer it to public service. No, so there's a lot to be done there. But then in every section, there's no thinking or mindset of resiliency. It's just like,
So
okay, we recover,
so
we
Ace, I
recover.
have
But
I
this
have a question for you, Ace.
sounds better. Yes,
I
yes,
have a question for you. So be honest
yes.
with me. How hard was it for you to transform your own mindset from your past version of yourself, like a security person or cybersecurity person, into now being the chief
Oh,
resilience officer, where you have to bring down all these silos and be more integrated? Can you, like, tell us like how that was for you? I mean, because you had to go through that transformation
Yes, very true.
mid-career, right? So maybe you
Yeah.
can give us a little idea of like, like what are the things that have changed with you?
Well, the first thing is that the emphasis on thinking about bouncing back better. The transition was that when I joined in June or May, when I think started considering EMDRCM, was that I was there as I said, okay, I'll be wearing my asset protection and risk management hat. And how many months it took me in that event? There's an event way back in October that it really changed my mind. You know, we were talking about water crisis, and I said we need to be resilient. And then that's where I started drawing in the paper with Wally, the resilient.ph program. So, how many months? I think that's the time. It took me 5 months to really change my mind that APRM, security, safety, BCP is not enough. We really have to think resiliency, the ability to bounce back better. That's why last November I became a consultant to Manulife, no, and then I really moved to say by January this year, 2020, we registered the company already, and then that's it. Everything just flow, and then every time we listen to you, every time there's a lecture
Okay.
in the case room or in online learning,
Uh-huh.
we practically get it. You know,
Yeah.
we strengthen our framework because
But
there's a lot to learn.
Ace, I
Yeah.
think Wally has
Yes.
something to say about this recollection of the story that you're making.
Right. And
Can I
I'm
give
going.
Yeah, yeah,
can I give Wally a chance to respond?
yeah.
Thank you.
Sure, sure. Please.
Okay, Wally, what can you contribute or say about this narrative about resilient.ph, the mission, and how you guys are transforming to live up to that role?
Thank you, sir. To be honest, I have to, I cannot rest without saying this. Ace has always been forward thinking. So it's unfair to ask, kumbaga parang when it happened to him, the transformation. The first time I met him, he was already thinking about a lot of innovations. We didn't even have a term for it. He was already there. So his mind was predisposed to innovation. Now, the concrete time that we put a name to it what happened in Mindoro while we were doing the rapid area assessment for the problem of these disasters that happened in the Roro. And that was the first time we coined the word resilient.ph. And ever since that time, we have been trying to perfect the framework. It was actually during your class in marketing where we made the pivot from crisis management and we repackage it to opportunity and crisis management. So one of the transformation that happened, we turned away from the traditional viewpoint of disaster of crisis management by simply managing the incident. In the resilience programming framework that Sir Ace and I developed, opportunity management is as essential as managing the situation so that you end up better than before. Again, I'm sorry for the people watching this program. We really have to kiss ass to Professor Cruz because a lot of the discussions, we were not participating in class. Ace and I were chatting online, trying to comment on what you just mentioned to reinforce what we were putting together in our social enterprise. Now, to answer that question about how this enterprise figures in this bigger world that we're living in, I would take a page from one of the comments that we had yesterday from our classmates. A lot of people tend to, pardon the word, bastardize or romanticize resilience. And it's also very unfortunate. And in the EMDRCM Live, Prof. Cruz, we talked about it. We go through typhoons year in and year out. The number of people we save remain the same. The people in the evacuation center, they're the same people we rescued the year before. So we are not bouncing back better. We're simply bouncing back. And in the past couple of days, watching YouTube videos, again, talking about the Filipino being resilient, it's no longer just being resilient in the old concept of being able to survive a disaster, bounce back better, go back to normal. The challenge is to go back to no, not go back, go to a better state. And again, again, to those watching, we might be biased because the program has really opened our eyes a lot, especially in my case, because I knew nothing about disaster management. The combination of your subjects with the DRCM program, with the inputs from our development teachers, and our interaction, very brief interaction with the MDM groups, at least from my part, the people in the smoking area who I get to interact with. They reinforce our mindset about how we move everything forward, not to go back to where we once were, but to go to a new state. This new normal is absolutely what we would like to reinforce with Resilient PH. Change people's perception so that we don't end up saving the same people over and over again, coming through typhoons, earthquakes, going through the motion, and ending up with not being better off than when we were first hit by these disasters.
So Wally, obviously the smoking area was very crucial in the pivot of resilient.ph. But how about now that we're physically banned from going to that glorious brainstorming area
Yeah,
next to the
that's the
dorm?
saddest part of this online journey. The social platform for collaboration and brainstorming that happens at the student lounge also, not just the slum center and at the sunken garden in the mid atrium. There are a lot of pocket areas at the AIM where you have all of this brilliant brainstorming session. If you're not shouting at your classmate at the KRC, 'di ba, shouting at them outside the case room, that was taken out of us, taken away from us with the online learning. But good enough, at least siguro after a couple of months online through Zoom in a breakout session in our own group meeting, we managed to go back to normal and start shouting at people again. Eh. So there was some learning curve, admittedly, but I think the beauty of what the AIM tried to do in spite of the challenges of the online learning was ensure that the learning journey continues. So I guess all of us are struggling, but kudos to AIM. And again, not promoting AIM because we're still part of AIM. The attempt of the school to really try to make us feel that the learning is still top quality is there. And I just, sorry madaldal kasi ako fault to ni Prof. Cruz sa ni Sir Ace. You talked about empathy. We were before in the class, bunched together, 44 of us, kanya-kanyang ego, iba-ibang pinanggalingan. There are a lot of, kumbaga parang very vocal and very strong personalities in the mix. But we did not really realize that this all 44, 45, or now 39 people in the class, all of this are in one way or the other frontliners. So when the COVID hit, it was extra difficult for people to come to class because we have a doctor really in the front line attending to cases. We had our different LDRIMOs attending to the respective problems in their local government units. We have NGOs who are actually in the forefront developing programs for the respective organizations to address the problems of the pandemic. So before we somehow hated the guts of some people in class, but the pandemic, seeing the problems that they go through, made us feel more, okay, we give them a little more leeway, so to speak.
Now I know why Ace appointed you to be the chief communication officer of resilient.ph, right? I I feel like I'm sitting across you on that table inside the lung center. It's no different, okay? The way your words move me is probably the same as if we were sitting there together in the lung center. So, but I thank you for that, Wally. I want to go back to Erwin and Sherry. We still have a few minutes left, but I wanted to really talk a little bit about you know something concrete in relation to the SDGs. And unfortunately, well, we have 10 years to go to 2030. It's 2020 now, and I don't really know to what extent the pandemic has affected many different programs across the world in relation to achieving the SDGs. Um, maybe to put it simply, can we still do it? Or in the Philippines, can we still do it in the SDGs in relation to healthcare access or poverty? I'm just curious from your point of view. Can we still achieve these things? Can we recover from COVID and still get on track to accomplish the SDGs? And what do you think it's gonna take from us to do so? Maybe some kind of assessment from both of you or either of you about that, especially in the context of the Philippines, maybe.
Okay, with regards to the SDGs, you're right in saying that the pandemic has really stopped us in our tracks in terms of being able to really move forward in achieving some of the goals. But I don't necessarily think that we're not going to achieve it. I just think that perhaps we're not going to achieve it within the set time frame. That is more likely. And I think the sooner we recognize that, the sooner we'll be able to adapt. And I really like what both Sir Ace and Sir Wally mentioned earlier about this being not just about resiliency, but opportunity management. And another thing that we've really come to realize is that Filipinos are resilient, yes, but they also need to understand and realize that they can be empowered. They need to realize that they have rights, and they can stand up for themselves and make changes for themselves, right? We don't necessarily always need to sit here and take dole outs. And I think that's something that we really need to get across to everybody, because I feel like when we talk about the SDGs, it's not just certain organizations that have to work towards achieving the goals. We all have to be able to work together. So that means that really getting it across to communities that they have the ability, they have capabilities, they have the skills, they have the knowledge, and it's really just putting all of that together and really achieving it. So when we're talking about the universal healthcare, it's there, it's present, it's implemented, but we're kind of stuck in the sense that we don't know necessarily how it affects us. If you ask the average person, they don't know, what it means to be under the universal healthcare. Does that mean I get free medicines? Does it mean I get free healthcare? So it's really about getting that knowledge across. It's really about getting that, that ability for the person to understand. And I think that being able to do that helps us alleviate certain SDGs, whether it's about no poverty, or at least minimizing poverty instead of mitigating it, or even access to good healthcare. Good healthcare, in terms of, for example, the SDGs with relation to HIV, we're not going to achieve it within the set time frame. That's a given, yes. But groups and the government is doing so much to really work towards minimizing the impact, and I think that is a heroic effort, even in the midst of this pandemic. And a lot of groups are still moving forward, even to the point of volunteers going to the houses of each of the patients who didn't have the ability to actually go and get their medicines at the centers. That just goes to show that there is that mindset, there is that that willingness to be able to reach those goals and be sustainable, and grab opportunities and be resilient. So I think that we, in terms of the SDGs, we may not achieve it by the time frame that we have set for ourselves, but there is that positivity, there is that hope that we will. And I think that if we do it together, I'm sure that we can.
Okay, Erwin, maybe your take on that.
Yeah, Prof, I totally agree with Sherry. I think it's not a thing of if it will it be done or will it be achieved. It's a matter of when it's gonna be achieved. I think at the onset, the SDG goals, the SDGs were defined or targeted at a very ambitious rate. In 15 years, you should be able to have zero poverty and whatnot. And then for the time being, we know poverty has been there. Then to achieve a zero poverty in the next 15 years, that's really a very bold target. But I believe it's achievable. It's a matter of how we'll be able to work on making it possible in soon. When I was younger, I always thought that going to school is like learning the theoretical aspect of things. And then it's true. until now, there's a lot of theoretical aspect that we are able to pick up, no, from our discussions in our courses, from your courses in marketing, no. But I realized that these are just when it's really put into action, put into real life, a lot of things can be really achieved so long as people will be working together, no. No, we learned the Zopa and then the Batna and all these things in our strategic negotiation courses, and I found out that we can actually use that. I mean, Ace mentioned a lot about systems thinking earlier, no, and then if all this, I was just thinking, if all these frameworks that we've learned can be put into proper use, I think it's possible as long as people will just be humble enough to admit that they can learn from another person. I think that's what's lacking. Eh? I mean, everybody's just balloon headed to say that my solution is better than yours. So again, one of the key learnings that I have, at least for the last how many months that I was with MDM, listening from my classmate. Shout out to Victor. He's always been talking about the review, no, and then the appreciative inquiry and this design thinking frameworks. A lot of frameworks. I think these are all workable as long as people will just co-create. We co-create, we humble ourselves, we listen to each other, and we find our Zopa, and then let's work on that. And I think again to answer your question, it's workable, it can be achieved, but it's a matter of when it's gonna be achieved.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask one last question for everybody, and then we're gonna take some Q&A. So, Giselle, I don't know if we have some Q&A already, but obviously, the reason for existence of AIM is to develop leaders and managers and entrepreneurs to work in different sectors of society, whether it's business for profit, in the development sector, government, etc., to address many different issues where the outcome really is the betterment of Asian society. Okay. So can AIM do it, or how should AIM do it? Okay. Of course, AM has been pivoting its business model, its learning model. We've always been known to be very strong in the case room. And in March, we were pushed off a cliff where we had to move everybody online. And I think the mindset has been, okay, let's get this going and see and learn how it goes, etc. But I mean, just to keep it real, obviously AIM still has a lot to learn about how to scale its own impact so that we can help more leaders like you moving forward. So, maybe you can give me, an assessment of, what you really liked and so far, and maybe what you think AIM needs to do so that we can really scale this on a much bigger basis. Right now, our class sizes are determined by the number of seats in the case room. But once we move it to Zoom, Zoom University, once we move it online or on whatever platform that we use, technically, theoretically, we could be developing more numbers. Okay. So I'm also trying to begin to understand how this can happen. This is a question not only for this management school, but for all management schools. Maybe you can give us some insight from your own experience of like what works and maybe what you think should happen more so that AIM can scale its impact. Okay, I don't know who wants to go first on this one. You can just jump in, whoever's ready to. I know I kind of maybe surprised you on this question. Don't worry, I think you will all graduate on time anyway. So, uh, an honest answer, an honest, constructive answer would be appreciated by the audience, right?
Can I start, Prof?
Okay.
One of the questions. Okay, sorry, no choice.
Yeah.
Talkative.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
One of the questions I keep on asking myself, I, having grown up in the corporate world, I've always looked up to AIM. It has always been an institution that if I had the money and I had the time, I would really want to invest in, yeah, for my personal and professional career growth. I wonder though if in the other sectors in the community, AIM is resonating. So you have brilliant people in the MDM community, and I don't know how they came across AIM, but I wonder if in the social sectors in the far-flung areas of the country or in the other areas in Southeast Asia or the world, is AIM is AIM as potent or recognized or known? So I'm sure with the circles that we are kumbaga navigating among with or in, AIM is quite known. But I wonder if it's moving along in a bigger scale.
Okay. Anyone
Can,
else?
yeah, can I pick up from what Wally said,
Yeah,
Prof?
sure.
I was just thinking, yeah, maybe we can AIM can leverage on the number of alumni that it has already all over the world. No, with the advent of the digitization or the virtual space, no, as you said, it's easier to reach out to people all over the world. And then we have our alumni to be our catalysts, our ambassadors to say what they can expect based on their experiences and how they've been able to apply what they learned from AIM. For people to also look forward what they can get from AIM. I mean, that's what we are feeling now. I mean, personally, for me at least, no, if I cannot speak for everyone, but at least that's how I feel now. I mean, after this, I feel like paying it forward and then telling people, well, honestly, as mentioned by Wally, it's kind of expensive to be at AIM, but of course, there are a lot of means or options to make the expensive not not something to look at. Because if we exchange that to the value of education and learning that you'll be getting, I think it's gonna be relevant. You know? So I think that's one way of one way that AIM can look at leverage on the network that it already has, and then reach out to more people that were not given opportunity but are really contributory, to the possible success in the future.
Yeah. So I think maybe next year I'm gonna change the course that I will handle. So I'll move, or maybe I will add. So I will run a course on all students must become content creators also, and start their own YouTube channel, so that they can talk about their own advocacy. And then let's see how many followers we can all get on the digital platform, right? Because it's a different world. I admit it. I've been at AIM for more than 20 years. Okay. By the way, I'm less than 50 years old. Okay. But I've been at AIM for more than 20 years. So, but that's the reality, right? The digital transformation. But I don't want to call it digital transformation that people might think of it as like a 2016 or a 2015 term, right? I'm talking about the digital transformation that is possible and is necessary in as of September 26, 2020. We have to update our approach and what works and what doesn't work, etc.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe I can give Sherry and Ace a chance to weigh in on this. Sherry, what do you think?
Actually, coming off what Erwin mentioned, and I absolutely agree with him. Like, there's so much to leverage from, and I think going online, AIM has taken. Well, actually, it's not even baby steps. We were thrust into going fully online, and I think that being able to capitalize on that and really reach out to not just the alumni, but really being able to reach out to a more global audience. Because, like you mentioned earlier, right, we were limited previously by just how many people can fit in a classroom. But now there are no limits. The Zoom University has no limits. And I think that, AIM can really benefit fully from, expanding these opportunities to more people who may not have been able to do so in the old normal. But in this new normal, that opportunity is more than possible. And I think, if AIM would be able to leverage on that, and with the help of the alumni, like what Erwin was mentioning earlier, I really think that it could enrich not just how AIM, communicates, with people, with students, with entrepreneurs, but also with how we are able to utilize that network ourselves and be able to reach out to even more people. So I think that it's really about that. It's really it's really going to benefit not just AIM, but every student, every person who is able to take part in the learnings in AIM. It's really going to expand our networks exponentially.
Yes. So maybe AIM should get into that a little bit more, right? How to manage your networks on in a digital world.
Yes,
And
very.
how to improve that interconnection, right?
Correct. And I think AM is really taking steps and has really succeeded thus far. And it was a huge learning curve initially, but I think AIM has been really successful in helping us transition.
Okay. Ace, I can see you. You want to like crawl into my Zoom camera already. Like, you're almost in. You're coming out of my screen already. Yes, sir. It's your turn.
Well, I think talking about transformation, AIM already had tried to have that transformation. In fact, the new slogan of AIM for an Asian Institute of Management has the words like lead, inspire, transform. Now, so you can see that there's management in it. It's now a leadership school. It's a transformational school, and even it's a leadership school. If you look at the objectives of our course, it's about effective communicators and effective leaders, no? Strategic thinkers also. So that's the standard of AIM. Now, on talking about alumni, I agree with everybody's really comment that we have to use alumni. The network of alumni is really powerful. Almost right now, in times of Zoom platform, I have listened almost to all Richard's Zoom presentation to alumni, And then that's the time wherein we are gathering more than 500 alumni in a session. Before, we cannot even probably gather 300 in a alumni homecoming, no? After several months of sleepless nights, and then we can get 300 participants. Now you can have 500, 600, 800 attendees. Just to inform everybody, the value of alumni is that we started even a chapter now at AIM that is for the uniform services. So meaning if you're a graduate of AIM and you are considered an alumni and you've been part of the uniform services, you can contact me because I was volunteered to be the vice chairman of that chapter. And that is really a very good start also to reaching out to those in the military or in the police service, because somehow a lot of the graduates, mostly of this new generation, they stick into the service. Unlike my batch and the batches, say 10 years ahead of me and 10 years after our batch of Professor Richard, most of the graduates there leave the service after AIM because the temptation is so great. Right now, they're still in the service. So that is a good connection, reaching out to different sectors and different industries. It's the alumni. We can crowdsource to the alumni network because they're the ones that will really give us an honest goodness feedback also. And we know that they are not just attacking us because we are they are from another school, but because they are fellow alums. They know how to deal with us.
Okay.
Yes, Wally, do you have a question?
Oh, okay. Again, don't hate me for this. I think it's just the
Oh,
function
come
of age. But again, guys, do you feel that AIM is pushing the envelope enough in terms of really leading, inspiring, and transforming? I'm going to go back to what our MDM cousins, schoolmates, referenced earlier about the goals. If we don't meet the sustainable development goals by the time frame, it's going to be the second time around that we fail to achieve the target. And for somebody looking at it from that perspective, medyo parang, wow, we keep on missing the goal. So there might be something that we need to change. And again, what Sir Richard has keep on hyping, if there's things that are not working, maybe we need to start to pivot. And again, don't shoot the messenger. I could remember one of the lectures of Professor Nihal when he was introducing the PPDM subject to us. In his narration of the development space, it appears that for the longest time, development groups have been there, but the social impact that we have been aspiring for has not really been achieved. So if AIM, in my head, one of the best schools in the world, is going to live up to its promise of leading, inspiring, and transforming communities, maybe the next batch of MDM, the current batch of the MDM, the EMDRCM, MBA, all of these programs, cohorts can really move towards doing something beyond just what we are doing for our respective groups. So that question, is AIM pushing the envelope strong enough?
Yeah, that's a good question, Wally. And I think while we were discussing about the failed goals, or we failed to reach our goals in SDG, I remember that there's only one professor who introduced to us, no, probably also to MDM, to write a class manifesto. When we started writing the class manifesto, it was only Wally and I who were just discussing it. Wally just, wrote that manifesto, and he said, look at this. If I have something to add. And he said, practically nothing to add. You just, got all my thoughts more than what I'm thinking. So we were trying to really to push that. Now the challenge is that it's not everybody in the class can just practically understand immediately. Why do you have a manifesto? What is a manifesto? Are you scared to push the envelope because you have a manifesto? That's why the challenge really for us is that even for us in Resilient PH, we wanted to have our own manifesto, because an advocate, you can only change minds if you have a manifesto that you stick to it. It's not the manifesto that I use. I'm usually linked to manifestos, no.
Yeah.
But then for this, is really a manifesto.
Yeah.
That's really for a goal. It's really pushing ourselves, not only just pushing the envelope.
Yep.
AIM pushing the envelope. Enough. But what about us? What about us individuals? Is the tuition fee that we pay the IM really making its worth into us? The transformation in ourselves? No. When I took my in 1996, my master's in management, it was a scholarship, and then even if it's a scholarship, I learned a lot already. And the transformation from a military mindset, fresh from Mindanao, fresh from a fight. In fact, my last encounter was 1 week before I stepped inside the IM. No? So, and then the transformation is that, wow, it's so fantastic for me that it changed my life. No? I left the service. And then this time, it really changed my life, that I have in times of, it's very ironic, Professor Richard, because Professor Richard was saying, what will the companies do now? Are you going to pivot, you perish, or pursue? And then Wally and I saying, okay, we're starting. We're starting a business. We're starting an advocacy. So the passion there is that, okay, if we don't make money, that's our advocacy, that's our passion. We will be happy to see people embracing that framework, because it's a mind setting, it's a transformation.
Yep.
We want to lead, we want to inspire people, we want to inspire the kids to think about resiliency by bouncing back better. That's why nag-insurance advisor ako, because you can only bounce back better personally if may insurance ka, may health insurance ka, may life insurance ka, or may non-life insurance ka sa business. Because we always think about financing. We always think about disaster risk financing, sustainability. But then we have professors, in fairness also to IM, they give us good professors who are also good in that finance side. But then they're still struggling about how do we connect this to DRCM.
Yep.
No? So I think when we push the envelope, yes.
No,
yes, Rich?
it's because, because I wanted to throw it back to our two friends who come from the private sector, right? And, just how to integrate all of these expanded goals, moving away from just the economic goal, and then, trying to incorporate more of the social impact. In your case, your frustration is incorporating the financial goals with the resiliency goals, etc. Right? And, I think Sherry in her own description says that, she's trying to transform the industry to make it more person-friendly or more human-centric, right? So, even at the highest governance level, that's a challenge, right? I don't know how I'm going to walk into the office of a pharmaceutical CEO tomorrow, or maybe not tomorrow, that's Sunday, on Monday with Sherry, and we're going to pitch to the CEO something. I don't know what, Sherry, do we have a pitch ready to make to a CEO of a pharma company about what program they should start considering to run in the future?
Well, Prof, I think that there are a great number of programs, honestly, and I did pitch to my CEO, so I was able to do that. But I think that, it's really a matter of timing, and it's really a matter of being able to, show your whether it's your bosses, whether it could be your top management, it could be your middle management, but you should speak from the heart. You should speak from a place of empathy. I think that's really important. And I think that if you're able to get that across to the people who are the decision makers and really see how they can make a difference, if they whether it's a policy maker, whether it's a head of a corporate industry, but just being able to show them how they can make a difference in a person's life, whether it's the kind of difference that also gives them a profit or it helps them with their advocacy. That is something that is yet to be discussed. But I think, based on my experience and based on how what actually recently happened in my company, this pandemic, was really again an opportunity for us as a whole, as a company to really evaluate, where we currently stand and how we really view things, and moving forward, what it's really gonna take to either, like what Sir Ace mentioned earlier, whether we pivot, we perish, or we pursue. And I think that we decided that, we're not gonna perish. We have to pivot in order to pursue our goals. And being able to really see how we as a company can really make a difference in people's lives. Because in pharma, like I mentioned, we're in pharma. It's really about being able to be there for a person who needs you, right? Medically, who needs you for medicines, right? And I think that, drilling that into each of our heads was really important. And I think, being part of the MDM program really also helped me be able to talk to my boss on a different level, not corporate, but really social development, and really being able to marry the two, and being able to show that you can be a profitable company and still be able to make a social difference. And I think that's what's really needed. And I think you don't necessarily have to divide the two. You can really combine both. It's a matter of perspective, and it's a matter of being able to get your point across.
Erwin, you wanted to add anything?
Well, I totally agree with what Sherry mentioned. How do I put it? I'm yeah, but everything that Sherry said is just well said. It's something that I already have in my mind. No, but I also wanted to say that I want to be in between what Wally and Ace mentioned about how AIM should be able to push the envelope. No, I think I always believe that it takes two to tango. I mean, while A may not necessarily be able to push the envelope too hard, no, I think it's also incumbent upon us, would be alumni and the alumni, so to check on ourselves, as like what Ace mentioned. How did we grow as AIM alumni? I mean, most often than not, when we are into something, we learned a lot. No, for example, here in AIM, we are too high to say that we've learned a lot. No, I want to apply this and that, and my future is like this. But give it 2-3 years afterwards, you're back to reality, and then you're experiencing the hardship or the good side of life. At one point, you will that would decay. I mean, I'm sorry for the word. No, that passion would somehow decay. I think what needs to happen is the connection to make sure that there's a regular checkup to say, oh, where are you now in your journey, and how can I contribute? If AIM would really want to be true to what it's saying of leading, inspiring, and transforming. I
Well
mean,
taken.
it will always be incumbent upon us to make sure that we push our agenda based on how we have envisioned ourselves as graduates. But AIM can contribute to making sure that the passion would continue after our journey within the campus. And I think that's just what I wanted to
Okay.
say. No? To marry the opportunities between AIM and its graduates and its students.
Okay. Well taken. And of course, it's a complex network. When I was younger, I would be very stressed in this kind of conversation because, as a faculty member, I would have probably, when I was younger, I would have probably taken this, I would have probably internalized the weight of this conversation a lot. Okay. But I think as I grew a little older, maybe I had a big change, right? Because I got sick 2 years ago. So that's kind of like a milestone in my life. But now I'm much more cognizant of like the complexity of the world. And I also realized that if you really just have to stand in the right place, like a lever, you just have to stand in the right place and, get your stick there somewhere and pull the lever a little bit. And a little force can actually move a lot. Okay. And the network is interconnected. We have communication, we have content, we have video, we have digital. So, your ability to influence and to educate and to create awareness, I think now is much, much greater than it used to be. And so we just have to master the tools of that. Right. So I appreciate all of this. And I appreciate also Ace's, passion about balancing between the objectives. And, Sherry, I appreciate actually that, that last contribution that you made about, the story with your CEO, etc. Okay. So, I all the comments that you made about, maybe what AIM can do to help scale it, well taken. I think these are real conversations. And I'm happy that we're doing this live on FB. We have nothing, AIM has nothing to hide. We're a public, and by the way, AIM, the school is just the school, right? But AIM is really a community, or you could even say it's like an idea, like Camelot is an idea. So like AIM is also an idea. I appreciate the fact that, there's also this recognition that the other stakeholders, like the alumni, also need to reflect and, take their part of the rope and pull on that part of the rope as well. Okay. So, we're a little bit, I think we're right on time. I think I can give everybody here like a last word, maybe just like a minute just to say something to our audience for the record also. And then we can wind it up. Okay. So maybe I'll start with Ace this time. Okay. And then we'll go backwards.
Well, my parting words for tonight is really more on us thinking about recovering back better, or bouncing back better. It may be a repeated phrase, but really that's the thing that we have to consider. Because if we think about better, we should prepare better, we should respond better, and we have to look at a lot of things from a better perspective, not just okay na yon, no? Because we Filipinos, we are always thinking about okay na yan. Okay, so, di ba? Okay na yan, okay? So, that's why we always have to think better. For me, thinking better is also one thing that I've learned at AIM is always excellence. You always have to put something better inside the case room. So when we are in online learning, we always have a chance to really be moderated and speak at a time and then say, this is my piece. And then we don't need to be cut off by others. So thank you for this opportunity for AIM and for MDM for inviting EMDRCM, your cousins, here in your event. Thank you very much. Thank you, Professor Richard, for a great...
Thank you so much, Ace. I appreciate your contribution and your engagement always. And this is not the first time I've said it, and I genuinely appreciate it. Thank you. Wally?
Thanks, Prof. For those of you who are familiar with the dramas of my life, I was coming from a year of depression before I came to know about AIM. And it is a life-changing journey for me. I learned a lot of things that I would not have paid attention to before. I met people that will be forever with me as I continue with my journey. And the sad part and what irritates me the most, because of AIM, I'm forced to care more. So before, when I was happy with my life and the successes I've had over the years, I was complacent. I couldn't care less. It doesn't affect me. There's no chance in hell I'd be involved in that. But the learnings in AIM, I don't think you can get away with caring more about the people that's out there at risk. So thank you for the opportunity. And if I don't say it enough, Prof. Cruz, you are one of the pivotal characters at the Institute that really shaped the way that we look at things. So really appreciate the learning, sir. And even outside the class, and looking forward to that thing that we're supposed to be doing for our engagements moving forward. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Wally. Very well received. Thank you for all those comments. Who shall go first and who shall go last? Shall I give I'll call Erwin first and then I'll let Sherry be the last. Okay.
All right. Yes, Prof. Just to share very little bit. I've always been ambitious, for the longest time when I was in my elementary days up to my college days, and I was working, I've always been ambitious. But I've always been arrogant as well. So I thought I know a lot of things. I thought I've been doing a lot of things that is contributory to the development of people that I care for. I believe I was able to do that, no. But again, my experience with AIM really contributed to a lot of things to who and how I think right now. Um, it's really very humbling. No, I don't want to cry now, but I really can feel it here, because the pandemic has taught me so much in life that up until now I'm still struggling. But the very reason that I'm fighting, that I chose to be stronger, is because of the inspiration that I've been seeing from the people that I am connecting with, both the professors, no, the students from our cohorts, my MDM family, my family, the second one that I've created, which is MDM Solutions Share, is part of that, no, and my LT, no, LT7, June, Rap, Doc Ampi, and Chimi, no, I mean, in just a short span of time, no, we have realized a lot that I thought I've learned already in the past 20 years of my professional experience. So you can gain a lot, no, when you are part of this organization, of this institution. Um, our discussions are real life. It's not just theoretical. That's just pasada, eh. Everything that you talk about in our discussions, from the professor's point of view, even from the student's point of view, would really teach you a lot about life and how you move forward. And yeah, thank you very much for this opportunity. There's just a few months for us to enjoy our being graduate students, and hopefully we'll be graduate students. No, and again, thank you very much. I cannot just say so much my appreciation for all the things that I've been able to that I gained, no, from out of this experience with AIM.
Thank you
Thanks,
so
Pop.
much, Erwin. Thank you so much. You have a very formidable learning team. Ah. That's all I can say. Very formidable learning team. Sherry, last word is yours.
I truly agree. Erwin's team is definitely formidable. And like he said, the MDM family is indeed a family. And I think the past year, or almost, 10 months that we've been together, almost going on 10 months, it's really bonded us together even more and really shown us, like, together we can make a difference. Like coming in, we all had different personalities, we had different agendas, but then going through this pandemic together, going through this learning process together, and just, really recognizing that, you learn how to care, just like what Sir Wally mentioned. You learn how to be resilient, because whether it's schoolwork or, just dealing with everyday life, you have to be able to be resilient. You need to have that resolve that you can do this, you can do better, you can be a better person, you can make a difference. And I think that has constantly been drummed into our heads in the MDM program. And I'm sure as well in your program as well, Sir Wally, Sir Ace. And, coming out of this, with the MDM program, I just wanted to say that I have learned really how to care and recognize the impact of events. Truly, really recognize it and truly feel it, and be able to realize that it's not just about being okay na yan, like what Sir Ace mentioned, because it's never okay na yan. Because if you really want to make a difference, you cannot just accept the status quo. You really need to make a difference. You really need to be able to believe you can make a difference. And I think that's what AIM has really taught me. Even though I'm, I'm a strong person, but then coming in, I realized that I have so much more to learn. And that's really what AIM has taught me this year, that I really had to unlearn what I thought I knew and relearn new things if I really want to be able to make a difference in society and really be able to make a difference developmentally. And I think moving forward, that's really how I'm gonna go, because I realized that I can really do more. And I think it's not just me. I think everybody in our cohort has really realized that, and everybody studying at this point in this pandemic has really gained an understanding that we can all do more, we can be more, we can help make a difference, because we are empowered, right? We can be empowered Filipinos who can make a difference. And I think that's what we should really take away from this that make a difference, you have the capability to do so.
Okay. So thank you, Sherry. I just wanted to say first of all, thank you to all of you guys. You guys are, you weren't not just outstanding tonight, but you've been outstanding throughout your whole stay at AIM. You are all outstanding students. You all epitomize the excellence that we always look for in our programs. So thank you. I just wanted to emphasize how important this kind of conversation is. So I'm sure what we normally do is we check how many people watch the FB live right after, and then maybe several weeks later we're gonna check how many people saw this. So hopefully a lot of people will be able to hear this. But it's very important for us to articulate these thoughts and these feelings and these perspectives, because today I think the world really is at the crossroads, in the sense that because of the maybe the tightness of the economy, of economic growth, and maybe because of the apparent or perceived lack of opportunity for a lot of people, that the behavior and mindset of a lot of people has become a little bit more to withdraw and to like stay within your own community, or to stay within your own color or your own religion or your own race. So, there's a lot of chaos, I would say, at this time, because it's a little difficult to get people to come together and engage and cooperate. And considering that we have so many objectives, right? Resilience, sustainable development, and all these things, the need for cooperation has never been so high. But the challenges of getting that cooperation is so high now, because again, times are not easy. You can't blame people, right? When the economy declined by so many percent, you can't blame people for not wanting to cooperate or to give or to share, because maybe sometimes they don't see it. It's in their self-interest, etc. Right? So there are a lot of challenges. We really need to move perhaps the mindset of the world away from this kind of chaos and pulling away from each other towards more of coming together and trying to transform how we can work together. So I just appreciate the leadership that all of you provide to all of your sectors, to your stakeholders. And yeah, we just, this is another deposit again into the bank of this conversation that I think is constructive and honest and open and authentic and transformative. So I appreciate that. We may call you again in the future to make another deposit to that bank, to that conversation. So please say yes when we ask you again. But on behalf of AIM and MDM, I want to thank all of you for spending your Saturday night with us. Thank you also to your families for allowing us to have that time with you. And to all of our viewers and listeners, thank you for sharing your time with us. We really appreciate it. Yeah, we take these problems seriously, and we work hard to try to solve them. But we're normal people too, So right after this, we're gonna go and be with our families and have dinner as well. So thank you for the opportunity for trying to figure out the world together. Okay, so till the next episode of MDM Live. Thank you so much, everybody. Salamat, salamat, salamat.
We need to operationalize ideas. We have a lot of ideas to solve problems of the world.
How can we build and scale the new business models, products and services, marketplaces, partnerships, and alliances that will strengthen our resilience in the areas of food security, public health and wellness, education, and social cohesion and culture?